Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. So I have read 126 books in the year 2023, which was last year, and I saw Leah do this video which is tier ranking all of the books she read in 2023, and I was so keen to do it as well and just see the books that I've read last year in tiers and just reflect on them and look at how good or bad my reading year has been. Truthfully, I did read a lot of mediocre books last year. However, I did have fun reading them, but this year I feel like I need to filter them out some more. And so last year was more about exploring things and just consuming and just having fun. But this year, I think I would like to focus my energy more on the things that are really aligned to what I like based on the previous years, of course. So I just have, I think, 6 tiers. So I have favorites, which already has 7 books on it. And that's because I already did a video on the favorite books that I read in 2023. So if you want to know about these books, just head on over to that video. And then I have revived my dead literary soul. So these are the books that to me are amazing, magnificent. They really align to the kind of books that I really enjoy. However, they didn't make it to my favorites. Probably just one aspect, for example, pacing I didn't like, or the character development I didn't like. So they are really good, but they're not my favorites. And then I have a fun time with decent writing. So this was just a fun read and it has decent writing. Below that is a fun time, but that's it. So I enjoyed it, but that's it. It doesn't really have anything more. It's not giving any extra qualities that would make me think that this is a really good book, but I did enjoy it. And then my brain needed to free up space. Basically, this is a tier for all of the books that I forgot already. Like, I probably had fun reading them, or I didn't, but now I forgot about them. Maybe I remember some things about them, but that's really it. And then I have why. Just speaks for itself, I guess. Why? So yeah, that's what we're gonna be doing today. I'll be not me holding my own hand like it's my mic. I'll just be speed reading, speed going through these books. Oh, and also there's not 126 in here because I put the mangas just one representative for all of the mangas, and that's it. So starting off with Blue Exorcist, I started reading this because Blue Exorcist is actually one of the anime shows that I really enjoyed, and there's not a new season yet. I don't know if they ever will come up with a new season, and I just wanted to relive the Blue Exorcist magic, and it was fun. It's a fun time with decent writing. So I'm just gonna put it here. And then the next was, I think this is Gokuraku Gai. This is a new manga that I am very excited about. Honestly, the main thing I love about this manga is that the art style is amazing. It's very maximalist. I don't know if that's the correct term for that art style, but it's really good. The art style is really good. The story is promising, but obviously there's just 2 volumes out, and I don't fully get the story yet, but I am excited. It's a manga that I still don't know where it's going, but I am keen to read every single volume. So I probably would put it with Blue Exorcist as well. And then Pucking Around is a romance, a hockey romance, and you know the why choose trope or subgenre of romance. I literally didn't know that that was what it meant. So it is how do you say, I don't remember the term, but essentially there's multiple people in the relationship. And honestly, it's a fun time, I guess, but that's it. I didn't really forget. Wait. Is it a fun time? You know what? I'll just put it in Y because I didn't really have that much fun reading it. But I don't hate it. I just don't understand. So maybe it really does deserve to be in Y. And then I'll just skip some of the other ones first and go to its sequel, which is Bucking Ever After, which is a collection of short stories about the four people in that relationship. Still, let's put them here in Y. And then King of Greed by Anna Huang. Anna Huang has so many fans. She has so many loyal fans as well. Like, not just fans, they're very loyal. They eat up every book that this author comes up with. And I think I've read one that I enjoyed, but this King of Greed is not it. I feel like this, if I remember correctly, this is the one where the couple is married and they're in a falling out, and it's basically the guy wanting to get his wife back. Honestly, that's all I remember, and it feels like a fever dream. So let's put it here. And then the next is a manga as well, Apothecary Diaries, and I really, really love this manga. I feel like I've started this manga in 2022, and since then, the anime has actually been published in Netflix. Published is that the term, but it's on Netflix now, and it's so good. It does the anime does the manga justice, and I'm so happy, and it's so good. And we are in volume 14. I don't remember, but we are so many volumes in, and it still doesn't get boring. There's still this big mystery, there is still this intrigue on the characters, and just there's every time you think you're gonna get bored because where is this going, they come up with this big critical event, and it just the pacing is so good. I love it. Why didn't I put this in my favorites? I feel like I focused on non-manga materials. So I'll just put it in my favorites as well. And then Throttled is another romance. It's an F1 romance. The 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 topic, the premise, it sounds promising, but you know what? Why? It's a little bit too cringe for me. I feel like I didn't rate it 1 star or whatever, but yes. Also, I just read this recently. I read this recently because I wanted a romance. I wanted a romance that would make me giggle and laugh and have fun, and this was not it. It's just the premise is so cool, like an F1 romance. I don't care for F1, but the premise sounds nice. It was just cringe. I'm sorry. Really sorry. Hamlet by William Shakespeare. So Hamlet is a play. Of course, it's William Shakespeare, and it's one of the funniest classical literature that have ever read. And I love this meme or like this picture always, like Hamlet says, "Oh fuck," and then Hamlet exits. It was so funny, and it revived my dead literary soul. It's not my favorite, and it was quite hard to read at some points, and I had to Google some of the explanations and the meanings of the words in it, but it was so good. It was so good. And then next is Agatha Christie's Crooked House. I believe this is Crooked House, and I read this because Emma from the channel Emmy, I think her channel is named Emmy. She reads a lot of Agatha Christie, and she says that this is one of the best Agatha Christie stories. However, I really just didn't enjoy it. I feel like I knew who the main villain was, and I didn't enjoy it. It was just so strange and weird, and I don't know. And it's not just because it's Agatha Christie's writing. I've read Murder on the Orient Express and I love that a lot. And I think Emma didn't like Murder on the Orient Express. So maybe we have opposite tastes. So maybe I should read the Agatha Christie books that she didn't love. Should I put it in why? Not really. Was it a fun time? Not really. Let's just say that I need to free up my brain. I haven't forgotten about most of it, but I would like to forget. And then A Court of Mist and Fury, and this was a reread, and you know what? It's a fun time. Does it? Yeah, sure. It has decent writing. I think I don't have to explain A Court of Mist and Fury now because everyone and their family knows about it. But yes, it's a fun time with decent writing. And then the next one is Noragami. Noragami, another one of those anime that I really enjoyed. I just wanted to read the manga and see where it goes because it's another anime wherein they just stopped making the show. And I've lost hope, so I'll just take matters into my own hands and just read it instead, you know? And let's put it in sure here. And then Haikyuu, I obviously have watched Haikyuu maybe 100 times now. I was obsessed with it in 2021, I think, until 2022. 2023, not really. I feel like I need to forget some of it so that maybe this year I can rewatch it again and then it feels like I'm watching it again for the first time. But not really because I know what happens. But yes, Haikyuu, let's put it here. Yeah, hold on. It's one of my favorites actually. And I didn't put it in my 2023 favorites because I didn't really read a lot of volumes of Haikyuu in 2023, but I did read maybe 2 volumes. So let's put it in favorites still because it deserves that spot. It deserves the top tier. And then we have Mark Twain's The Prince and the Pauper. I am someone who loves Barbie. I loved The Princess and the Pauper and their little song, I'm just like you're just like me, you know, that song. And I thought that The Prince and the Pauper would be like that, but instead it's not. And I didn't really hate reading it. I feel like now it's starting to fade in my brain. I know the general plot of it. Obviously, this guy trades with this guy, and then stuff happens, and then this guy needs to go back. What happens to this guy? Yes, but the details, they're starting to fade and my brain's just like, you don't need this information anymore, so let's put it here. My brain needed to free up some space. And then Food Wars, another one of those animes that I love. And then I started reading it. Actually, maybe I should say this. I got the Shonen Jump subscription, and that's why I wait, no. Subscription or free trial? I got a month free of Shonen Jump. So I jumped into the opportunity of reading a lot of the animes that I love, and Food Wars was one of them. And it's one of my favorites, but I feel like the manga itself is not my favorite. I like the anime more, so maybe let's put it here. Revived my dead literary soul. And then I read a lot of books for that video where I read my favorite books, like my previous favorite books when I was a teenager, I think. But yes, I did a 24-hour reading vlog where I read those books, and Red Queen was one of them. Honestly, I was obsessed with Red Queen when I was younger. And it's still fun, when you read it and you get transported back into this world. However, it's just a fun time and that's it. Like, now I recognize the cringe. Now I know the cringe. And then A Court of Wings and Ruin. Again, a fun time with Decent Writing. This is the third book to the Akotar series. Next is a classic. It's a Penguin Little Black classic, and it's Baltasar Gracian's How to Use Your Enemies. And it's basically this Spanish priest in the medieval period, and he writes these scathing kind of anecdotes, not really, wait, advice on how to use your enemies. Basically, it's very classist. It's very like, just do this to deal with idiots. Idiots meaning not those in the upper class as well, but not really. It's just subtext that he kind of pertains to, you know, people who aren't upper class, because I think this was made for someone who deals with government affairs, meaning someone who is in a high position and how they will deal with affairs. But yes, I actually recommended this to some of my colleagues, and it's a fun time. You know, I laughed a lot. It's advice that you don't necessarily want to implement in your life, but it's just fun when you think about the fact that a priest wrote those things. But yes, it revived my dead literary soul. And then Matsuo Basho's Lips Too Chilled, and Kenko's A Cup of Sake Beneath the Cherry Trees. I actually don't remember much of it, but I remember how pretty the words in it are. And even if I know that I loved them when I was reading them, these two books are just, you know, some of the books that you read and then you forget about them. You just read them when you want to read something pretty and quite philosophical as well. But yes, my brain forgot about it. I'm very sorry. Then the next one is a Jane Austen book, which is Persuasion. I read Persuasion so that I could finally watch the Dakota Johnson Persuasion movie. And Persuasion is not my favorite Austen. It was quite boring at some points, and now that I think about it, I forgot who the freaking main character is. Wait. Yes, oh my god, I forgot who the main character is, but I know that it's mostly about this lady, this girl, and she's probably one of Austen's oldest main characters, if not the oldest, and it basically shows her being thrust again into her past, because in her past she was actually betrothed, or she fell in love with this guy, and then in the present time she is forced to interact with him again, and it basically shows you that she was persuaded when she was younger to not be betrothed to this guy because he's not very well off and she's from a well off family, and it just has this yearning. I just remember the yearning, and I remember some scenes very vividly. They were at the beach, someone fell from a ladder or a staircase, but I forgot her name, which is bad. And you know what? I feel like I would still put it in a fun time with decent writing because it's not bad. It's just probably not the Austen of my life. And you know, when I was reading it, I actually read it quite for quite a long time because I wanted to give it a chance. Because I'm really not a classics person. I say this even though I'm mostly interested in reading classics now, but yes, Persuasion, some parts were dragging and some parts were boring, but I had a fun time. I just don't remember the name of the main character. But I remember I didn't hate her. I actually liked her, and she had this maturity in her that, for example, like Emma didn't have, and it was just refreshing to read. And yes. Anyway, next is Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare. This used to be a favorite of mine, another book that I read in that 24-hour reading vlog, and let's just put it here again. A fun time with decent writing. I don't hate the writing. It's a fun time, so in this year. And then The Cruel Prince. It still hits so good. I have read this 3 times by now, I think, and I will be putting it in my favorites. Wait, yes. By now, I think it's a favorite. It deserves to be a favorite because I've read it a lot of times and I constantly think about it. I constantly think about reading it. You know, when I just finished the whole series and then I want to reread everything all over again. So maybe all of them, all of these Cruel Prince books are my favorites as well. And then Strange the Dreamer, another reread, and it still hit really good. But I feel like it's not a favorite anymore. Like the magic is not as magical when I reread it. So I'll just put it in Revived My Dead Literary Soul. I feel like I need to reread this again sometime soon. And then Scythe. Scythe might be one of the best books ever written. And I'm saying this as someone who has read this twice. This was my second time reading it, and it was still so good, if not better, because now I know what it's about, and it's just so good. It has all of these layers, and it makes you question a lot of things. It's just so freaking good. So let's just put it in my favorites. It's still my favorite. Still so good. And then Stalking Jack the Ripper is another one of those rereads, and I feel like it was a fun time with decent writing. I really don't have much to say, it's just a fun time with decent writing. And then Warcross and Wildcard are some of the books with the most interesting concepts for me, and it's not something you will ever forget, I think, unless you really hated the books. And I feel like it's a fun time with decent writing. They didn't really revive my dead literary soul. And then Meditations by Marcus Aurelius is basically Marcus Aurelius's musings, and they're in all in this book, and it makes you think as well. And I read this very, very slowly because I wanted to actually absorb the things in here. So I feel like it did revive my dead literary soul in a sense that I really appreciated it even if I read it for so long. And then An Enchantment of Ravens is one of my favorite books ever, and this was a reread because I just wanted to read it, you know. It's like The Cruel Prince. I want to reread it. It's so good. It's kind of like Howl's Moving Castle. It has this great imagery, it has this great concept. It's in this short-ish book, and even if it's short, it does not lack at all, and it was just so good. Favorites. Okay. Next, QQ Sweeper is a manga that I tried reading because I saw Jury tweet about this, and it's actually super interesting. It's about this girl who discovers that this guy is basically has this magical cleaning ability, but not really. He cleans demons, evil spirits. He cleans darkness. It's along the lines of that, and I remember I really enjoyed reading it, but somehow I didn't continue reading it. So I feel like it's a fun time, but that's it. I think also because it's quite an old a- ma- anime manga, so the art style is not something that I'm drawn to, so maybe that contributed to the fact that I didn't read the next volumes. And then A Court of Frost and Starlight, I just reread this every December. It's a fun time with decent writing. I know a lot of people hate this, but I don't really hate it. So yes. And then Watakoy, another manga. It's an office romance, but it's between two people who knew each other before they became colleagues in the same office, and it's just cute. It's a fun time, but that's it. I am not attached to it yet. And then what's this? Wait, this is Demon Slayer. Honestly, Demon Slayer deserves favorites because Demon Slayer has great art style, great characters, great story, great fantasy world system thing. It's just great. For me, another one of those animes that I would want to watch, and those mangas that I would want to consume. And then I read this, The Moments and the Great Flood, because I didn't really grow up watching or reading Moments, and I was curious. And it was just a fun time, but that's it. I'm not invested in the Moments universe. Then Thunderhead is the second book to Scythe. Obviously, it deserves to be a favorite. Let's put it beside Scythe. Hunting Prince Dracula, another one of those rereads. It's just a fun time with decent writing. Oh god, there's so many. There's actually so many. This has been 30 minutes of recording. But yes, and then I reread The Poppy Wars, still so good, still one of my favorites. And then this is Urban and Regional Planning, which I read for the board exams. And you know what? I actually was able to grasp the history more with this book. Obviously, it's an academic book. It's not the only academic book that I read, but some of the other ones I read weren't in Goodreads, and some of the other ones I just read some parts. I was like, no, this isn't worth my time. But this one is actually pretty good. If you want the comparison between European and then American planning throughout history, read this book. If you need to brush up on the history of planning, read this book. Sure, it's my favorite. It's my favorite because it helped me pass the exam. And then Atomic Habits, it's just a fun time. It's not as revolutionary as people say, for me at least. And then Jujutsu Kaisen, forever a favorite. This was actually, my copy was given to me by Kat, so thank you, Kat. And I just reread it because I love it, and I love Jujutsu Kaisen. Don't ask me if I watched the second season yet, because it's been months, but I still need to gather the will and to strengthen my soul with prayer, because it's just gonna be very depressing. And then Sorcery of Thorns. Hold on, is this the first time I've read Sorcery? Yes, this is the first time I've read Sorcery of Thorns, because I love An Enchantment of Ravens, and this is the same author as An Enchantment of Ravens. And this was also so good. I remember I read this on audiobook while we were traveling, and I was so sleepy, but I wanted to continue listening to it, so I was like just listening to it on audiobook. So it did revive my dead literary soul. Next is a Filipino book. So Dekada 70 is about the 70s. It's about this very dark time in Philippine history wherein we were under the rule of a dictator, and it just shows you a great perspective in a very comprehensible, easy to comprehend language. So I feel like it's here. And then this one is a manga about a villain who likes pandas. I forgot the name, but I really enjoyed it. And then I read The Burning God. Again, one of my fave. She Who Became the Sun, I reread that. Still one of my favorite. And then Junji Ito, Venus in the Blind Side. Blind Side? This one, not my favorite Junji Ito, but let's put it here. It's another one of those horror mangas by Junji Ito. The Stranger by Camus. So The Stranger is an absurdist novel, and it's super short. I read this after I actually made that favorites video, and it's actually one of my favorites. So it's basically about this guy who just kills a person, and they are basically asking him, why did you do it? Why did you fire multiple shots? They're just asking why. Like, why would you kill someone? And he's just like, there's no reason. He just did it. It's a journey in absurdism, and I'm not doing the book justice by saying that in that light, but that's really it. And if you want to read something like that, just read it. It's just one of those books where I would just say, just read it. It's so good. I had a reading vlog for this one, and if you want to know more of my thoughts on that, just watch that one. And then Paladin's Grace is another one of T. Kingfisher's books. I read this because I did enjoy the How to Something Guide to Defensive Baking book, and I really enjoyed that one. But this one I really didn't enjoy. I didn't enjoy some of the characters. I didn't enjoy the story. However, it really had this amazing premise, but I just didn't enjoy it. So I just want to put it in why. Again, a book that I didn't really rate too low. And then this is another manga that I wanted to check out, My Dress Up Darling. Why? Just why? And then The Do Over by Lynn Painter, another one of those books that the book talk girlies always talk about. They say that this is the best book, and I really didn't enjoy it. I just forgot about it actually now. My brain was like, you don't have to remember this book. And then Manacled is that Draco Hermione fanfic that's very depressing, and it's 1,000 pages, I think. I read this in around March, and it was a fun time with decent writing. It's not fun, it's depressing, but you get what I mean. Like, you enjoy reading it, and it does have decent writing. This is the Kingfisher book that I liked, A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking. It was a fun time with decent writing, honestly. It was such a fun read, and I don't know what happened to the other The Kingfisher book, but this one was very enjoyable. And then A Touch of Darkness is, I think, a Hades and Persephone novel, and I'm very keen in reading Hades and Persephone novels, probably because I played Persephone in one school play. No, in one class play. Very minor role. I just said I'm Persephone, goddess of the spring something. Basically, we just dressed up as our characters and just had to introduce ourselves. But this one was just why didn't enjoy it. Actually, I forgot about it, so let's put it here. And then the next one is Hearts on the Hard Ground, which is a short story. I vaguely remember it, and I just didn't get it. I didn't understand what was the goal for the book. So let's just put it in why. And then A Thousand Steps into Night is another one of those Studio Ghibli reminiscent books, and this was like Spirited Away, but for me it was like Princess Mononoke, in the sense that it's quite dark and deals with nature spirits, I think. I also read this on audiobook, and I remember it just went on, and it just had so many scenes, and it felt like such a long book. It was fun, but I feel like I need to read it again, which you shouldn't really have to do with the book, but I'm willing to give it a chance because I honestly enjoyed the premise of it. I was just thinking about how long the book is. And then Once Upon a Broken Heart, I read this in February, and I wish I hadn't because what the hell? Just not for me. I hated the writing, and yeah, it's not as whimsical as they said it would be. I felt so betrayed. I have personal beef with this book, but yes. And then I reread The Love Hypothesis mainly because the romance books that I've read weren't hitting as well. And when I read The Love Hypothesis again, it didn't hit as well either. It's a fun time, but that's it. Chloe and the Kaisha Boys. This is one of the books that I won through a giveaway. Actually, it's just the only book that I won from a giveaway, and it's by a Filipino author, and it was just such a cute book. And I'm not saying this because I got it for free. It really is a cute book, and I was actually going to give it to my cousin to lend it to her because it's the kind of story she really enjoys, and I forgot to give it to her. I forgot to bring it while we were there for New Year's. It's a book that I will definitely recommend. I remember the characters, I remember what happened, I remember all of them, and it revived my dead literary heart. It's probably one of the only YA books that I liked this past year. Book Lovers is my favorite Emily Henry book, and it's a favorite. Obviously. And then Demon in the Wood is basically about the Darkling's past in what's that series? Shadow and Bone. Shadow and Bone trilogy. And it did have good writing and illustrations. Let's just put it here. And then Stoneheart, Radiant Sin, those books in the Greek mythology dark romance thing. And I forgot about them. Honestly, I'm so sorry. Yes. The Serpent and the Wings of Night. I did enjoy this one. This is a fantasy that's also very popular, and it has vampires, which is so cool. I actually want to read the second book this year. So it did revive. Wait, did it revive? Wait, where did I put it? Oh, did it revive my dead literary soul? No. Let's just put it in the third tier. Oh, there's still a lot. Oh my god, there's still a lot. Okay, Half a Soul. I read this because this was pegged as another one of those house moving castle like books. Not really moving castle like. It's a fun time, but that's it. I think it's set in the Regency era. The Soul and Air is another one of those Cruel Prince books, and it's about Oak, and it was fun. Didn't revive my dead literary soul, but it was a fun time. King of Wrath, again, one of those billionaire books of Anna Huang's. I forgot. Mysteries of Thorn Manor is a novella for the Sorcery of Thorns book, and I immediately read it after I read Sorcery of Thorns, and it was just so fun. It's probably a favorite as no, wait, where's Sorcery of Thorns? Here, it revived my dead literary soul because it was just so good. If you really like coziness, this one has it. And then another Junji Ito collection, Tombs, quite creepy. It's a fun time with decent writing. It's not revolutionary, and I think I read some other ones in the collection which were also in another collection, which is so strange to me. Like, why would you repeat stories? But I guess not my decision. And then I finally read Hellbent, which is the second book to what's that? Ninth House. The second book to Ninth House. I enjoyed this more than I enjoyed Ninth House, and it did revive me. Yes. God of Malice, girl, I forgot. Wait, no, why did I put it here? I forgot. I literally forgot what's in this. I'm sorry. Love Theoretically, I did enjoy it. It's a fun time with decent writing. Happy Place. Oh my god. Happy Place. I enjoyed it. I read it as soon as it came out. I read it when I was living in another island, and I just remember distinctly when I was reading it and what the atmosphere was, and it was just so fun. I had so much fun reading this one, and I want to read it again. So it did revive me. It revived me. And then Icebreaker, why? I remember what it's about. It's about this ice skater and this hockey player, and they are just horrible. They shouldn't be together. Next is a thriller. A thriller. Yes, it is a thriller. None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. It's unhinged. It's mind-boggling. It's thrilling. and it's a fun time with decent writing. It's not revolutionary to me, but it's definitely one of those books that you would remember forever. Oh, and this is basically about this woman who has a podcast, so she's quite well off, and then she meets this other lady who just somehow was able to worm herself into her life, and it's just so scary. Someone Imagine Saltburn, Oliver in woman form, but less sexual and more unhinged. Wait, is she more unhinged than Oliver? She's more delusional. Marriage for One, I Forgot About You. What even? I don't remember. Spy Family, another manga that I enjoy, another anime that I enjoy, and up until now, it actually has quite interesting stories in it. So it revived my dead literary soul. Chainsaw Man, I finally was able to live with the fact that the season 1 people are no longer there, or like the first arc people will no longer be existing, and I feel like I've accepted these new characters, this new set of characters, and this new story. So it's a fun time with decent writing. And then this is Xavier's Book Cafe in Another World. It honestly became a little bit boring now. It's basically about this girl who is in the normal real world, and then she becomes thrust into this other world where she is basically a savior and she has these magical abilities, and she made this book cafe and she meets this guy and they're just there battling evil forces. It's cozy in the start, but now it's not. Let's just put it in the fourth tier, because now it's I'm not as invested now. And then Soichi is another Junji Ito girl. If I see Soichi in real life, I would be so scared. Like, he is so creepy and he looks like someone who would skin you alive and laugh. He would skin you alive, but then you'd still be alive, and he'd keep you alive so he would be able to torture you some more. He's such a strange person. It did revive my dead literary soul, I guess. And then the Six Deaths of the Saint. I read this early in the year. It's a short story. And I remember it vividly, actually. And it's a fun time with decent writing. It's not revolutionary anymore to me. King of Pride. Is this the one that I liked by Anna Wang? Hold on. This is the one I liked more than the other ones. But now that I'm thinking about it, why did I forget it? So let's just put it here, because I forgot it now. And then Percy Jackson, the new book, Chalice of the Gods. It takes place when Percy's about to go into college, and he needs these recommendations to be able to get into college, and he has to perform these trials. Not really trials, missions. What's the term they use? But yeah, missions for the gods, and it's just so fun. It did revive me. It's that familiar world and writing style that we love. So Soul Eater, once again, I loved the anime and I wanted to read the manga. So here we are. It's a fun time with decent writing. The September House is one of the horror books that I read in October, and it was a very interesting book. And until now, I have thought about it. And I did have a very, very fun time reading this one. So it did revive my dead literary soul. Showers of Luck is a book that was given to me by Penguin Random House Southeast Asia, and it basically tackles this culture in Singapore, and it was so interesting to read about. Yeah, it was a fun time with decent writing. The Fine Print. Wait. Oh yes, this was the Disney thingy, Disney like billionaire. I want to forget about it. I thought it would be good. They sell this so much on BookTok and BookTube, and I'm just like, what on earth? A Study in Drowning. I read this on audiobook and I was so excited because I do enjoy Ava Reed's writing style. I read Juniper and Thorn in 2022, I believe, and I really enjoyed it, and it's imprinted in my brain. Like sometimes I think about Juniper and Thorn and just think, ah, I need to read it again. But A Study in Drowning, you'd think that I would be more inclined with this because this is about academia and I relate, but it was not as magical and as dark fairy tale like as Juniper and Thorn. It did still was a fun time. It's actually more than a fun time. I did enjoy it. So let's put it in here. Revived my dead literary soul. And then Talia Hibbert's Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute was a young adult shift by Talia Hibbert. I remember it, but I don't particularly have strong feelings about it now, so I feel like it's a fun time, but that's it. It didn't stick with me. It's not here anymore. I remember it, but and then Kami-sama Kiss, another one of the mangas I think the jury was retweeting on Twitter, and I was so invested into the idea of reading it. I did read it and I did enjoy it, but not as much as I anticipated. So it's a fun time, but that's it. But maybe I just need to read more volumes of this. And then The Christmas Guest by Peter Swanson. My first Peter Swanson book. I know that this author is very prolific, I think, because a lot of people talk about this author. But The Christmas Guest, kind of knew it from the start as well. It was fine. It was short. I didn't really regret reading it. So it's a fun time, but that's it. Not revolutionary. The Ghost of Blackwood Hall is another Nancy Drew novel. I actually really love Nancy Drew. I've read it when I was in elementary school. Like I had this list of the numbers because they're numbered, and I would cross out the ones that I have already borrowed, and it's a fun time, but that's it. It's not my favorite Nancy Drew book. And then this one, The Whispering Statue, this just didn't make sense. It was fine. Wait, hold on. Wait. Actually, The Ghost of Blackwood Hall was the one I hated. Like I was thinking that that was the worst Nancy Drew book that I've read. So maybe let's just put it in a fun. Wait, no. My brain needed to free up space because now I don't remember. I remember the title, but I don't remember what it's about. But yes. And then The Whispering Statue. Yes, I know what this is about. It was just a fun time. Yes. And then the last one is The Son of Neptune, another reread of those books that I've loved before. So let's just put it here. A fun time with decent writing. So this is all of them. Looking at it, I forgot about a lot of them, and it's actually pretty equal, I guess, in terms of the ones that I liked and didn't really like. Because A Fun Time with Decent Writing, it's fine, but I would have liked to have more of those that revived my dead literary soul, you know? But maybe for 2024, that would be the case. So yeah, guys, that's it for today's video. Thank you guys for watching. I know that this would be a very long video, seeing as it's at 59 minutes 33 seconds now of filming. I don't know how I'll be able to cut that down. So yes, it has been a great review of my reading year for the year 2023. I feel like I would be doing this video for many years to come because it's just a fun way to summarize your reading and see them in actual tears and see how much you really like. So if I would rate this reading year, 2023 would have been a 6 out of 10 because there's a lot of mediocre books in here and I could have read more amazing books. But that's a goal for the next year. Anyway, guys, thank you guys for watching and I will see you in the next one. Bye!